Hello and welcome back to Young Adult Matters. For those of you just tuning in, I'm Ruby Fuentes. We have Stephanie Suarez, Monica Benitez, and Miguel Santos. Today's topic is about missionary work and its purposes. And one thing that we forgot to ask Monica, because she was part of the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, where she got to volunteer at an Indian reserve. Indian reservation in South Dakota, right? One thing I was itching to ask you, how did the people respond to the gospel when you were volunteering over there?
I think that my position specifically was very unique because I was working for a Jesuit-run mission, so the mission itself was religious. We had 3 Catholic churches on the res. I kind of I shortened it. Reservation. I'm sorry. 3 churches on the reservation, but
it sounds cool. The res.
Yeah, the res. Yeah. So we had 3 churches on the res. So it was easy for me to kind of squeeze in there and talk about it. And I would like to say I had more of an easier reaction to them, or I guess influence, but because because I'm Hispanic. A lot of the Native Americans are dark, and they have dark-colored eyes. My 3 other roommates, they're from Chicago, Midwest, so white. One was a ginger, colored eyes. So
did you all get along well? You know,
yeah. I mean, there was like any family or community. We had a lot of clashes, but one thing that we did share in unison was always at the end of the day, we always ate together. So that was a way for us to come together, talk about our day, and see what we want to do later in the weekend or the week.
Yeah, food is a great unifier. It brings everyone to the table.
Yeah, so we were all, we all had an appetite. We would cook for like 8, and there was only 4, and it would be gone. The boys could eat, let me tell you.
Oh, so you cooked?
Yes, I learned. Kind of, like I knew some of the things, so it's either you learn or you learn. Basically, it's what it is.
You learn or you don't eat.
Yeah, basically.
Swim or sink. You know?
Yeah, and going back to your question. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked by food, of course. It was interesting to see how they grew up being Lakota and Catholic, because like the Native Americans have their own type of spirituality, and how the mission works so well. St. Francis mission works so well in collaborating both of them and kind of bringing both of them in. Like in some of the masses would have some of the Lakota songs. They had smudging, which was a type of purifying yourself and your house and people around you.
Like the huevo?
No, it was this type of shell, and there was sage. So they would light it, and so it was a type of incense. I guess you can say kind of the incense, kind of bringing people together. And so that was pretty neat how they kind of intertwined Lakota culture and Catholicism. And I did my best to kind of tell them what I know of my heritage, of my faith. I did say a lot of like Our Lady of Guadalupe, and they were kind of interesting. Their ears went up when I said Guadalupe, and not in like a Spanish accent, and like Juan Diego and like a Tilma, and they're like, "What are you saying?" Because I said it in an accent, not like.
How would they say it?
Tilma, like I did, like
Guadalupe.
Guadalupe, yeah. So they had an accent. Like anywhere you would go, you have an accent.
Yeah.
But the fact that I said it in Spanish, and there's not many Hispanics on the res, they'd be like, "What did you say? Where do you come from? Like I thought you were Indian, you know?"
Oh, so
yeah. I blended in very well. So I think that, like I said, like I kind of, it was better for me.
I have a question for Monica. Were there any similarities between the Catholic religion and what their beliefs were?
Yeah, and I said like the smudging. There's certain things that the Native Americans do that they kind of made it, I guess, the same or like equal to Catholicism, if that makes sense. Like a type of the sweat lodge. I don't know if you guys ever heard of sweat lodge. It's kind of you would kind of go in and there's hot rocks and you sweat, you know.
Kind of like a
so
cave,
like a sauna.
and they go
Like
in
a
there and they
sauna.
just.
Yeah,
Is
sauna.
it a sauna?
Yeah, a sauna.
Without the gym.
Without the gym, yeah. And there's a lot of prayer, and there's a lot of meditating. So they would kind of compare that to a type of confession. But because you're pouring your heart and soul into it, and you're getting so deep in prayer that you're letting things out and you're asking.
Do they do it verbally? Do they verbalize what, you know, is it vocal?
Yeah,
Or-
there's different rounds. It's actually each round gets more intense. Like the more rocks they put and the more water they put.
Wow.
So at certain point, like it could like type of like suffocating. I guess to me because I've never been.
Well, there's a guy that died at one of the sweat lodges
Oh yeah, that was
a
a
couple years
little
ago.
intense though. Yeah, that was a total different story. But yeah, kind of like that. There's many different type of sweats, and I mean that in itself was an amazing experience. Also, they have a sun dance every year, and it's a type of I guess coming together with people, but of giving thanks. So you go to mass and you say you light a candle or things like that. You tell the people like, I thank you for doing this for me, and they actually pierce themselves on their arms or their back, depending if you're a man or a woman, and that's you can go for days. I believe it's 7 days, and
Of just piercing?
yeah, and they kind of go through this, and they kind of, there's this tree in the middle kind of unifying everybody. So there's this rope that's tying to their piercing, like the men have it either in their back or their chest, and the women have it on their arms. So the pain that they're causing, every time they take a step back, the more it kind of rips through the skin.
Oh, wow.
Until it actually rips, and that's kind of
Ouch.
giving grace of what I've been through, of what troubles that I've been through, or things like that, and it's very interesting. Like
Kind
the
of like
whole-
a sacrifice.
yeah,
Almost,
yeah,
as
yeah.
if,
That's
like,
what a sacrifice.
like we're with the piercing. I mean, what we normally. Some people are celibate. Some people fast.
Yeah,
that is just one
definitely.
force.
So it's mortification, also to help kind of fortify our spirit,
Our spirit.
our character, and
And then that's the norm. And I thought, I mean, I was amazed by it. And I mean, they have their people that they pray to as well. They have Kongashila. I said that right. Yes. And which is God. And they have God and they have Mother Nature. So they're very in depth of nature, of animals, and so that's pretty.
Is your Sundance kind of like what Sandra Bullock and Betty do in The Proposal?
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying.
Like where they
Sorry,
start
is that
singing?
Yeah,
chick flick.
Right?
Very
I
great
feel left out.
I mean, they do sing and things like that, but and in essence, a little bit. But I mean, they do give thanks, and like kind of what you saw in the proposal.
Well, that's a really great way to kind of give us a crash course of the Lakota culture and how you blended in so beautifully with them. And do any of y'all have any other missionary work? I know, Miguel, you said that you wanted to kind of share a story with
Well,
us.
it was through campus ministry. I was a student back in the early 90s and was invited to the Tarahumara Mountains in Mexico, La Sierra Tarahumara. And it was a summer kind of mission trip that we took. And I can say to this date that trip impacted my life so much that I think it had it was instrumental in me choosing to love and serve the Lord, even professionally, because I felt during that trip that I was called for more, and I was called to serve the Lord with whatever talents He had given me. And I think it had to do with the realization that that we're all God's people, and that we are all equal in the eyes of God, and that He has, we get so lost in the secular world and our material kind of culture that we tend to value people for the size of their bank account or their wallet, and in this very simple lifestyle, I was able to appreciate a very deep spirituality that these people possessed, and their connection to God and their prayer life was very inspiring to me. And it was like 4 hours. You had to drive 4 hours into the mountains just to get there. There were no cars. there was like a bus that would come twice a week, like a little combi, like a mini bus, and I'll share with you, my very best friend had an accident and broke his neck or severed his his what do you call these discs, and for 2 days he was in pain and had to remain there for 2 days till they could get somebody to come and take him to hospital. So it was a very secluded kind of a community in the middle of the mountains. But one of the things that really impacted me is their gratitude, that we had given of our time and to be there with them and to share our faith life. And I think this is, you mentioned like a common misconception about missionary work, that we think that we are giving, and in giving we receive so much.
Yeah.
And it is, what we take from the experience is so much greater than what we think, it's an act of kindness or charity, or that we're doing something for others. No, it's just part of realizing that we're all one family, and we're all children of God, and we maybe have a different reality. We were born into a different situation, but we're nonetheless equally loved by God. And for instance, this community, they didn't have a priest. And a priest would go like once a month to celebrate Mass. So to see the devotion with which they prayed at Mass was just, so inspiring. And then how they would, come together at the table, how they would say grace always before their meals, how they would share about their days in little communities. And I particularly remember Don Pilo. Don Pilo was like the elderly man, and he lived by himself. He didn't have any family, and he was paralyzed. And here was a man, this is something that really caught my attention. He lived in like a little storage warehouse that just had one of those like steel doors, no windows. And he would soil himself, and everything was a mess. And part of our time there is that we shared with him that Don Pilo was, had the same dignity as everybody else, and we got the children to respond, and they were actually like commissioned to care for him. And even after we left, we knew that he was cared for. They would take him his food. They started treating Don Pilo very differently. Those experiences, I encourage anyone that has an opportunity to seek this out, to go do some missionary work. It will make you so aware and so grateful for the many blessings we have that we take for granted.
Yeah, and appreciating the cultures as well. I mean, the Lakota were so beautiful, so full of colors, tradition, and family, and they would come together, and I think that's so beautiful.
And I think it molds us into people that we were called to be. And for others to see what us young Catholics and what all generations are doing because of missionaries and because of humbling work like that, it's going to bring people more to the church.
We encourage you to seek that, because that is what God calls you to do. So you can just Google it, or you can visit our website, www.cm.net, for more information. Until next week, we'll see you guys. Bye.